Details from last night's town council meeting on this episode of Barnstable Today. It's Friday, February 6th, 2015. I'm Sarah Mannel. Refinancing some town bonds will mean a big profit for the town of Barnstable. Finance Director Mark Milne talked about the process during last night's town council meeting.
The budgetary savings resulting from that refinancing was $2.1 million. Over the next 10 years, we'll save $2.1 million from that refinancing. The savings will be shared between our general fund, our community preservation fund, our water enterprise fund, solid waste enterprise fund, and golf enterprise fund. The net interest cost on the entire bond issue will be $3.2 million over its life, and that's an effective interest rate of 1.79%. So it was a very good bond sale for the town of Barnstable. Prior to the issuance of the bond, Standard & Poor's affirmed the town's bond rating as AAA, citing the town as having a strong budgetary performance and a strong debt and contingent liability profile, as well as a strong institutional framework. In addition, they referred to the town as being very strong in several categories, including the economy, budget flexibility, liquidity, and management. The ratings report is going to be made available on our website. And I'd like to send a big thank you out to our town treasurer, Deb Blanchette, who does a lot of work with bond counsel and our financial advisors in order to put all of this together, and she deserves a great deal of gratitude from us for conducting such a great bond sale.
And the ratings report Milne referenced can be located on the homepage of the town's website. The web address is town.barnstable.ma.us. Several town leaders attended last night's town council meeting to discuss last week's winter storm Juno. Police Chief Paul McDonald talked about the historic storm.
As the town manager said, everyone met at the PD on Monday afternoon on 26. Prior to that, the event started earlier in the morning when there was a conference call with the Barnstable County Regional Emergency Planning Committee. At that time, at 10 o'clock in that morning, they decided that the 6 shelters in Barnstable County would open. We then met at 1 o'clock. The DPW, the town management, the school department, natural resources met at the PD to go over our strategy of how we're going to handle the storm, and most important, how we're going to communicate with each other during the storm events. 26 at 5 o'clock, the Red Cross and AmeriCorps showed up and the shelter was open. At 6 o'clock, the first guest appeared. The storm came in. During the height of the storm, we had approximately 33 individuals stay at the shelter. We had 8 animal guests stay at the shelter. The storm went till Wednesday on the 28th. The Barnstable Police Department, we towed 158 vehicles from Monday through Wednesday. The bulk of those vehicles were towed on Tuesday at the height of the storm. The vast majority of them were towed from the airport rotary and along Route 28 from the airport rotary down to Yarmouth Road. There was a travel ban in effect. It was in effect until Wednesday morning at 1 o'clock in the morning when it was lifted. Nobody was cited for the travel ban, and that was a very conscious decision I made because of the blizzard conditions, the whiteout conditions along the roadway. Most of the vehicles were stranded. There were individuals in that vehicle. We had 13 four-wheel drive vehicles operational. The police officers were instructed to get the passengers out of the vehicles, get them to safety, and have the vehicles removed from the roadway as quickly as possible.
Dan Santos, Director of Public Works, echoed some of the chief's sentiments, describing Juno as a very intense storm.
In this storm, snow hurricane, however you want to call it, it was a very intense storm, which on average somewhere around 30 inches of snow, but what was really more important in the effort of trying to remove snow is the large drifts that were everywhere, in many cases, 10, 12 feet high drifts on roads. Wind gusts of 70 miles per hour, as the chief mentioned, travel ban in place by the governor, and I think was earlier mentioned one of the largest snowstorms in the last century. They were forecasting 12 to 16 inches of snow, really right up to the storm in our area, and they were not forecasting the intense wind that we got, and particularly the duration of the storm. So I'll go through now the timeline and what our reaction was. The storm for us started on Monday. When the folks came in at 7 a.m. Monday morning, we got ready for the storm that was coming. And at 1 p.m., we pre-treated our mains and collector roads with salt. And in this case, we used a salt, a liquid to brine mixture and solid salt, and we put that down, and that can last up to 24 hours. The traffic works it into the road, and it helps melt the snow as it falls. And we found that this year is a very effective means of treating the mains. By 8 p.m. on Monday night, we started plowing on mains and secondary roads. So we did call the contractors in, and they're working on the secondary roads. At midnight, when the period of intense snow started, which really went on until about 10 p.m. on Tuesday night, they were calling the blizzard conditions over off Cape somewhere in the afternoon on Tuesday afternoon, but we were in full blizzard conditions until the middle of the evening on Tuesday, a remarkable duration. By midnight, 9 of our secondary contractors had already broken down and were unavailable to us. We had all of our DPW drivers involved in the storm. We, in fact, called in our supervisors that supervise our various divisions. We had them driving and involved in the operation, and we also made calls to departments in the town outside of DPW to see if we could get some assistance from people that could drive a plow, may have worked for DPW in the past. And we made those calls out to get all the assets, personnel that we could during the storm.
Santos says the department eventually went to 2 teams of plow operators to ensure crews would be on the road 24 hours a day. Santos says the department is reviewing its policies and procedures to make sure roads are classified properly. Several Barnstable police officers will be getting some much-needed training thanks to a $50,000 gift from the Lyndon P. LaRusso Charitable Foundation. Sergeant Jean Chalice says the training will be invaluable to the Community Impact Unit.
And just a little background on our unit. We were established in May of 2014 in response to the increasing number of calls for service involving the homeless and street population, primarily in the downtown Hyannis area. As you know, Hyannis is the hub of the social services in the whole Cape region. So what we're finding is that we are dealing with a disproportionately large number of people who are suffering from mental health and substance abuse problems on a regular basis. So in order to address the needs of this population, our unit has formed partnerships with the Department of Mental Health, VinFen, Homeless Outreach, Cape Cod Hospital, Duffy Health Center, the Salvation Army, Bay Bridge Clubhouse, and most recently Barnstable District Court Probation, the NOAA Shelter and Housing Assistance, to sort of establish a network of agencies available to offer resources beyond a traditional police response of arrest to see if we can provide people better services. And these partnerships are really the early stages of a community-based, comprehensive, innovative jail diversion program that we're trying to establish to make sure that we give people the best care possible on the street. What we're looking to do is make sure that we're giving the best outcome for the involved person, but also that officer safety is improved and that it's a better outcome for the community, businesses, et cetera. What we're finding and what we've learned over the past 8 months is that substance abuse and mental health issues really are not isolated to the homeless, although it's an epidemic among that population. We're dealing with problems all over the town of Barnstable with mental health crises.
And the department hopes to train even more officers in mental health and first aid training and has applied for another grant to help pay for that. Well, be sure to tune in to our hour-long news program, Barnstable This Morning, weekdays at 7 a.m. On Monday's show, we will chat with Town Manager Tom Lynch, Superintendent of Schools Dr. Mary Schakowsky, plus we'll have all the news and information you need. For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Mantle.